Texas got 2 shots at Georgia last year, went 0-2, had 60 combined rushing yards in the process. And the latter of which was the conference title game, and they got beat by a backup quarterback in come-from-behind fashion in the second half. That backup is now Georgia's starter. Really interested to see how you see this game. I had several reasons that my mind wanted me to take Texas, had some reasons why the model wanted me to take Texas. In the interest of Georgia playing all these one-possession games, who knows? If I had to bet the game against the spread, may even take Texas plus the points because it just has 24-21 written all over it to me. But at some point, man, I almost have the tendency to zoom out on games like this. I'll leave it to you to talk about all the matchups. Like, I'll leave it to you to point out specific players. My nature is, if you're Texas or Georgia, you get to decide how you play. You get to decide the offense and defense you run because you get your choice of athletes to do whatever you want to. You get to staff however you want because you got the biggest staff pools in the country. You have endless resources. So the way you're doing it is the way you would do it if you could do it anyway. This is the way Georgia chooses to do it. This is the way Texas chooses to do it. So it's almost like a culture test, like a culture game. It's like a program game every time this stuff happens. So Georgia's run up against Bama and had trouble. Texas, now I'm watching them run up against Georgia. Smaller sample size, but they've had trouble. And so I had someone ask me earlier this week, well, who do you think Texas is? I just paused for a second because I could answer that about Kirby and Georgia. I've long since been able to answer that. How do I answer that? As we get into the game breakdown here, how do you answer, what is Texas under Steve Sarkisian to you? Because I think the data is still incomplete. Or maybe like to get to the finished version of the answer, you have to be on the right side of outcomes like this eventually.
And I think they can be because the talent has the ceiling for them to be. This comes down to consistency again. And last year's team was very consistent at doing things when asked to do them inside of that system allows them to win games. Take a swing pass in the flat, take a crossing route, take a toss sweep or an outside zone to the running back. Making 2-3 defenders miss instead of going for 4 yards, it's 24 yards or 44 yards. There's a small amount of games that Texas has done that consistently this season. I've told you, you go back and put the UTEP game on, it's the best individual tackling performance still that I have seen in college football this year. The amount of one-on-one tackles that were made against Texas ball carriers, it didn't feel like it was real. It felt like it was CGI when I was watching it. You put the Vanderbilt film on, and all of a sudden 5 guys can't get 1 guy down. And I don't know exactly where that comes from or how that's derived or what makes one or not the other. Playing together, understanding angle system, just having done it before. Ryan Wingo looked like Superman last week. If he looks like that again, Texas is probably going to win this football game. I think this will come down to a couple of things. Number one for me, I like how you sort of leveled this game out, like went back to an elementary floor level with this game, because I agree that a lot of that is what it's going to be. Last year, Texas basically ran into a team that said, we're about to see what you're about. Like, do you have the S about you that we know we do? Because we're going to put it on display and we're going to test yours. And I don't think Texas had it. I really don't. Do they have it this year? If they do, they'll play with them. It'll be a competitive game. And at that point, it comes down to some schematic things and maybe a mistake or two. But Texas has to prove that to me first. This kind of is, it's not as elementary or for ground level. When I was in college, my offensive line coach, Rick Trickey, used to go to the whiteboard in certain games like this. And he would say, them's La Tech, use Auburn. And he would circle Auburn. He's like, where's Auburn? You win this game. And like, that was it. That was how he broke the game down. I wish it would have been that easy. It wasn't always that easy. But this game, to me, starts out being simplified to that level. Will Texas match the grit, the physicality? Are they hard enough to be able to go out and win this game? Ultimately, I think that's what it comes down to. Because if they're not that, Josh, they don't have a chance to win this game. If they are, then we can talk about the lost players on offense like a Dylan Bell or a Jack Injuries, because so many other guys are going to get so much attention and they're going to have their chances to make some plays. And if they make big plays, they'll be able to do that. And offensive line being able to pick up Colin Simmons or being able to pick up Georgia pressures, all those things come into play after that. But if Texas isn't that, there's really not a lot else for us to talk about as far as this game's concerned.
Yeah. The other thing, I've listened to a lot of folks out of Georgia talk about trying to manufacture as best you can this late in the season some kind of pass rush. Hey, wait just a second. I appreciate you guys watching. Most of you are subscribed. If you're not, please do so. It's free. It helps us keep the show free, and that's how we do college football year round. All right, back to the video. It's been very, very well documented how much they've struggled in that category this year. Now, to their credit, they've kind of resurrected their ground game. I think they were 24th in the country coming into this week. I know it's very, very not in vogue to give Mike Bobo credit for anything, but, maybe a little crumbs worth of credit to him and that offensive staff. But with Georgia, all right, so anytime you go to a place like Georgia, you see these young guys walking around the building that are not going to be ready to go week one. But you always think to yourself, all right, not every one of these guys is going to redshirt. So some of them are just going to randomly pop on my screen, usually on special teams, week 3, week 4. Then some injuries happen, or maybe you're just not performing up to expectation, and they get in the rotation against a team they're up by 35 against. And then all of a sudden, Texas comes to town, and some young kid ends up in the backfield, and you're like checking your play card to make sure you've got the name and the number right. I always think about that possibility. What Yanze Pierre's been doing this year, not a freshman, but all of a sudden just kind of coming on and doing what he was projected to do out of high school. Georgia's got those guys too. I just wonder, like from a ground level, when you're sitting in a defensive staffing room and you're trying to throw everything against a wall saying, guys, we're not going to lead the SEC in sacks this week. Let's not even pretend we have that high-level capability. How do we do more than we're doing right now? What are some simple steps they can take here, if they can take any at all?
The first thing I thought of is, man, this happened a week early for Georgia, and it was number 10 at tight end last week. And you're just like, hold on a second. Who is that, and where has he been? He looks like he's an NBA small forward out here in pads, knocking people down on the goal line, catching balls over in midair over to the sideline, tiptoeing before he goes out of bounds. Like, that shouldn't be allowed at his size to be that athletic and that fast. As far as the pass rush is concerned, there are ways to generate it. And one of the reasons I'll always give Georgia an advantage to be able to find it is the precision in which they run their pressures. A great example of that, a great counter to that would have been Mississippi State last week and what they attempted to do to Georgia. A lot of their 3-man games, a lot of their 2-man pressures, very wide around the penetrators that were trying to basically clog up space and allow for a gap or an alley for them to be able to run through. That thing would come around the tackle instead of just hugging that butt cheek of that defensive tackle right over the guard. And so when you do that, you obviously give the quarterback more time to operate. There is, I guess, less selfishness and more precision with the way Georgia runs their pressures than almost any other team in college football. They know how to operate it, and they don't do it for themselves. You can tell they understand the assignment, and it is to either occupy these 2 offensive linemen or keep this offensive lineman from being able to get into this gap. And they do it well because they play fierce football with authority. So the individuals might not be there, but the way in which they do it, and I will say Texas is a team that relies a lot on 2 things, pull protection and slide protection. Those are gettable, because if you're trying to pull an offensive lineman around to, one, pick up an edge dude, for me coming off the edge, that's where Jalen Walker got him a couple of times last year. And when you pull that backside guard on that, the center and the tackle then have to close 2 gaps. Again, that takes time, and that's a lot of space that is created for a short amount of time. You can attack that. You want to slide the protection. All of these D coordinators have ways figured out how to get past that, to occupy offensive linemen, and you're not going to have somebody in the gap when you retrace a defender back over where they should have been because they're playing like robots and only going to one spot. So I would say the pressures that they're going to draw up, the precision in which they will run them, and the authority in which they will run them with almost takes away the personnel part of it, because Georgia's been that good at that part for so long. They still have a chance to find a way to get home by doing those things.